We are the plant-based partners. And here are 10 things we wish we knew about e-bike commuting
with the child.
All right, number 1, choosing the right bike. Now, this was a big one for us because we've never ridden or had even really seen an electric bike before. And so when we were going online to pick one out, it was really overwhelming, all the information. And the main thing that we really stuck on was finding a bike that had a back seat. And so because of that, we didn't notice the moped styles, and there were a lot of bikes we just didn't really pay attention to. The other thing when we were choosing our bike was we didn't know, or I didn't know, what a fat tire meant. And so a lot of this may sound crazy, like, how did you not know what a fat tire looked like? But we didn't realize how useful a fat tire versus the non-fat tires would be on like urban terrains, on streets with a lot of broken glass and sticks and things like that. So, the first bike we bought was the Eb Carosi, and it's a 2-seater. It's a 14-inch tire bike, and it's a 500-watt motor. All those things sounded great because as we were learning about California laws, we were trying to stay within a 750-watt motor range or smaller. And so, like I said, the only thing we focused on was the back seat, but I really wish we knew about the moped style. And so we ended up getting a second bike after about a month because the Eb Carosi was just obviously a little too small for us. It was 500 watts, so when it comes to hills and things, it didn't have a lot of power. And Roscoe wasn't really that comfortable on the back seat, even though it worked, and it still works, and it works great for if you're riding on sidewalks. So really choosing the right bike can take some time. We tried to do it within a month, but ideally we would have found places that rented bikes and we would have test drove different styles of e-bikes. Another thing is we didn't know what the giraffe necks would actually feel like when you're riding it. And so it's really like riding a scooter with a seat. And so it's not that comfortable, but the BMX style bike is a lot more comfortable. It's easier for a tall person, definitely, to handle and maneuver the bike.
Number 2, tying your shoes before each ride. This is important because if you don't tie your shoes, your laces may get stuck in the spokes, and it can either rip your laces off or rip your shoes off. So if you don't want that to happen,
yeah, and if your bike is really strong, it can actually pull your leg and sometimes even cause a lot of damage to the bike, or actually cause damage to you. All right, number 3.
Children may fall asleep while riding the bike.
This is something I never anticipated, but Roscoe actually falls asleep a lot. So when we got the moped style bike, which is the Retrovolt, it has a super long seat and it's actually very comfortable. And Roscoe pretty much falls asleep all the time when we're on the way to his MMA class because it's a 5-mile ride. And the first time he fell asleep, I kind of felt something like it just wasn't right. The bike kept going out of balance. And then so finally I realized, I said, Roscoe, are you falling asleep? Roscoe is actually falling asleep. And so now it's a theme of his. And so they actually have harnesses that you can put around you, especially if you ride a motorcycle. I thought about using a belt, an extra long belt, but now I just play Bob Marley music and I just keep tapping them and telling them. So that's something you have to really, for safety precautions, really keep in mind. Children will actually fall asleep on the bike. Number 4, most bike lanes don't feel safe. And so you'll see that there are a lot of bike lanes on your route and you'll think, oh, this is a great route. But there are bike lanes that are going along with the traffic. Most of them will be kind of like a gutter style. Some will be kind of actually in the road and separated from the sidewalk, but will be right there with traffic. And some will say a bike lane, and there's actually no lane at all. And so anytime you have to ride with traffic, we live in Los Angeles, and people drive very fast. They take their cars really serious. And so it's very dangerous when you're riding, especially with the child passenger, along with traffic. So we usually take the sidewalk, or we really map out our routes really well so that we can take back streets. All right, number 5, you must prepare before every ride. That's something we really wish we knew, because we didn't get a bike basket. So we're always packing a backpack to put our extra clothes when the ride gets like either too hot or too cold. So we have extra gear, face masks, gloves, jackets, scarves, all these different things, bike tools, water, what have you. So the bag gets pretty big, and then the bag actually gets in the way of Roscoe. Sometimes he uses it as a pillow. It's the other reason probably why he falls asleep all the time. And so having a bike basket in the front really helps a lot. The other thing is you should really like check your tires and everything, at least, and your brakes, at least 30 minutes before your ride. So when I have to go pick up Roscoe from school, one time actually, my bike tire had the air had gone out, and it was literally right before I was supposed to go pick him up. Luckily, my neighbor's daughter went to the same school, and so I called him and called a ride. And so that made me realize, if you don't have a backup plan, you got to always make sure everything is right with your bike right before you leave. All right, number 6, locking up your e-bike and storage. Now, locking up your e-bike sounds like a pretty simple thing, but you have to really research the places that you're going, especially if you're using your bike to commute and you're going to stop at stores and run errands on the way to and from. A lot of places actually aren't designed, that I found out the hard way, for bikes. And so they don't have bicycle racks and things like that. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And also the type of lock and chain to use. Okay, so a lot of people are really savvy at being able to crack a lot of different locks. And also, if you get a big chain, we have a really big chain that we use, and it's actually really heavy when I put it in my backpack. That's the other reason why you definitely want to have a front basket to help carry a lot of the extra things. So those are things to think about. And lastly, in terms of where you stay, well, we stay in a really nice apartment building, and they actually don't want people to store their bikes on the balconies. And so you have to use the bike room. And with an electric bike, a lot of times you don't want dust to get into your motor. So you might be a lot more discerning about where you lock your bike up at. And so you might have to lock it up in your apartment. Number 7, cars making right turns always speed into the crosswalk. Boy, we've learned that the hard way. And we've actually seen somebody get hit right in front of our eyes. And so when cars are coming to make a right turn, technically they're supposed to stop before they get into the crosswalk. But you might be riding along on the sidewalk like we're always doing. And so they get to the crosswalk before you, and then they're stopping for oncoming traffic, but they're already in the crosswalk. And let's say you're trying to go across the front of them to cross the street. Well, you have to always make sure that you get eye contact with that person before you walk in front of their car, because they'll make that turn without looking to the right because they're looking to the left at the oncoming traffic. And so one of our rules is to always walk through the crosswalk unless it's really clear that no car is coming or they've come to a complete stop.
Number 8, dealing with rider's fatigue.
And that's basically where your body is just really sore from riding. And now you may think with an electric bike, hey, it's doing all the riding for you. But actually, especially if you have a 7-gear Shimano, you're going to want to actually use those gears and ride and pedal the bike. And so, and another reason why you're going to want to pedal the bike is actually to save some of the distance and the mileage of your motor, so you can get more distance. And so, just intuitively doing that, your body, you're going to be using a lot of your muscle, and you're just going to be sore. And on top of that, you may not have the most comfortable seats, and so your butt will be sore. Now, we actually added a gel padding to our moped style bike, the Retrovolt, and so it really helps the seat. It's very comfortable, but most days I'm just really sore, and also the elements of just the weather conditions really kind of wear you out. And we do a lot of riding at night, for Roscoe has after school activities. And so when it gets late at night, it's cold. So all those things just kind of really wear on the body. So you want to build in some other alternatives to riding, whether it's walking, maybe driving a day or two, to give your body a break. All right, number 9, daylight savings time. Man, this is our first school semester riding an electric bike, and we just didn't take into account that with after school activities, we would be leaving some things and it would be nighttime. And so it's cold, and also we realized we had to get lights, helmets with lights. And so luckily we found, and here, turn around, Roscoe. We found lights that, we can add. These have multiple features. We can take them on and off and, charge them or what have you. And so you always want to make sure that you can be seen at night. And so we ended up getting these vests, but these are all things we wish we had known when we first bought the bike. And so, a lot of things we just did in the moment, but so being seen at night is a really important one. All right. And then the last one, battery range plus commuting distance plus weight plus hills. And this one ties back into number 1, choosing the right bike. We didn't think about, when we got the Ebb Carosi, really fun bike. It's really cool. It's a scooter style. It's really fast. We really didn't think about kind of the range of the battery. So about every 2 days, we'd have to recharge the battery. And if we ever we have a flat commute, but if we ever come to hills, man, it takes a lot of our battery out. And the engine, it's only a 500 watt motor. It's not really that great on hills. And so, especially with our weight together, I'm 185 pounds and Roscoe is 73 pounds. So even though we fit within the 330 combined weight range for the bicycle, or weight limit for the bicycle, it's still, we end up using a lot more battery because of our combined weight on there. Now, luckily, we ended up getting the Retrovolt, and it has a much better battery range, and also it can handle hills better. And if the battery ever dies, because it has the 7 speeds, the 7 gears, it's actually easy to ride with the motor off. So until we get to hills. But those are all things that we kind of learned the hard way, actually, after buying a bike. So we could have probably just bought one bike, but we ended up buying 2 for learning lessons. All right, so that's it. Much success with your commute. Always be safe. And thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and like, and definitely comment if you have other tips that you think people should know if they're commuting with a child.
Plant-based partners.
We out.